Okay, y'all. To be honest, I don't know if it's too much noise in here or what. Okay, so one of the things I was doing, so I was looking at the Giza complex. Excuse me. Um, Now, as an explanation for before, I am the Huremaket, but there have been some things happening to me. Now, when in this consciousness, the way that it is now, any of us acquire or have any honest knowledge, there are forces who do not want that knowledge spoken and attained by others. So they do attack us. And I was told that when I started to project sacred text, I would be attacked. And I've been teaching sacred text since my 20s. And I do get attacked. And I didn't know it would come, the attacks would come in the way that they have come. I didn't think it would be um, having to do with sex, anything like that. And so, you just think something's going to attack you, but I didn't know what was going to attack me would be the way that it was. And so, having to deal with that kind of attack was something in itself. Okay, so I was thinking about the Giza Punk complex, and so I thought it'd be a great idea if I started focusing chiefly on that. Now, I will say, um, I already knew when I looked at the Giza complex that that was my face and that that was something that I needed to solve. So I already understood that. But a hint of it also came from Mr. Randall Carson because I was looking at him and he said something that this was early on too, but when I was looking, he said something on one of his videos. He said, "Spare the rod, spoil." He said there was a rod measurement. And then he mentioned spare the rod, spoil the child. Well, actually, and I knew exactly what that meant. Okay, so when you look at the rod, those are measurements. Those measurements, um, oh, thank you. The child is the evolution, okay, and revolution if it need be. So if you spare that rod, then you spoil the child. And so the rod, when I look at it, the rod is, it looked to me at first when I looked at it, I saw immediately that that was a recital. All angels are Qurans, they're recitals. And so to look at the rod, I'd have to look at it as a recital. Thank you. So I'm going to, I started off by telling you that's a white mountain range. Okay, white means completion or completion to the next level. So when you look at the Giza complex mountain range, it has to do with us. It's the same thing to do with Moshe and Aaron, um, a mountain of strength, stone mountain. Stone is always, stone always is a lesson. So when you talk about stone, it's talking about a lesson, okay? And then the gold top has to do with the gold chakra. So you would have white mountains with gold chakra. So that literally is saying a mountain of strength to go to the next level. And those who have the mountain of strength have gold chakra. Now, those who are evolutionary teach others to be evolutionary. And that mountain of strength is a mountain of gods, as I said. You have a mountain of gods, they choose a god. You need a god to lead gods. So then you will have a chosen God, and that chosen God is the king. Because a king is a chosen God, not a God's chosen. No, thank you. Now, as I said, King is a chosen God, not God's chosen, because we are all cultivating Godhood. How you know we're all cultivating Godhood? And thank you. We're all cultivating Godhood. Okay? Because, so when you look at that, that means we need a mountain of strength towards completion. When you look at that mountain range, you look up and you see the Orion's belt. The stars speak. The stars speak. And then when we see letters of the Hebrew language, they're all modeled from constellations. So look at the Hebrew letters and look at the constellations, and they're the same thing. So, and I heard someone say it was fire language, which makes sense because fire is what happens. Heat is what happens when there is processing. When you look at the sun is a gigantic, conscious, gorgeous being. If you perceive the upper earth, there's an upper earth and the under earth. Upper earth beings are beings when you can connect with the upper earth, then you can perceive the living sun. All those stars are living conscious beings, and they speak to us, they teach us. They'll teach us how to get to other planets and how to get back. They'll teach us what to build. They are the ones who evolve us. And you can see that they're living. They do speak. And when they speak, they are their own validations, as I said. And when they speak, they teach us. So when you wonder, how were we able to evolve? And how is it that we were able to do things then that it's hard for people to do now, or they don't do at all? It's because the stars taught us to do those things. Okay, the earth speaks. When you can perceive the earth and the earth speaks to you, upper earth beings. And planets are upper earth beings. They all speak. There are beings on those planets. There are beings on Jupiter. There are beings on Mars. There are beings on planets, but they are dimensional beings. So they can choose to be seen or not be seen by other dimensional beings. And even if those other dimensional beings can see them, sometimes they don't perceive what they are seeing. So, and then they can tell us their dimensionality. We can also, when we can perceive the grid, like I said, I can perceive that grid, and then the alchemical numbers are how we perceive the grid and how we map out the grid. And once we understand that grid, then we can do relativities. We can see our relativity dimensionally on our grid and then their relativity dimensionally on their grid. So every single solitary being in existence speak alchemy. From the tiniest to the largest, every single thing, every single being speaks alchemy. And once we learn how to speak alchemy, we'll be able to go to other planets, because this is one of the things that we learn in order to be able to adapt on other planets, because those alchemy will be everyone's universal language. All right, so I'm gonna get started because I wanted to pull up the text. I wanted to pull up all the things about the text. And then, like I said, I apologize earlier because, as I said, something was happening to me. And I feel like this is the time. Now, what I wanted to do is I wanted to pull up Randall Carson and the part that he was talking about the rod, and then I'll go into the measurements of the rod. Yes, and actually, atmospheres are dimensions. So whenever you see in alchemy the number 0, 0 is always a dimensionality. If there's 2 zeros, there's 2 atmospheres. That's 2 dimensionalities. If you know anything about the under earth and the over earth, because some of y'all might do, the under earth and over earth, those are two different dimensionalities. So when they talk about mermaids living for 300 years, 3 is actuation and the 2 zeros are 2 dimensionalities. That means that mermaids actuate in 2 dimensionalities. does not mean that they live for 300 years. Although dimensionally, that could be that also, because when they do things in 2 dimensions, that could last 300 years. Kind of like how you see the forefathers, they, what people call forefathers, I don't call them mine, but they were, a lot of those people were into Satanism. So what they did, it lasted a long time because they were moving in that kind of dimensionality. But it doesn't mean that the actual person lives for 300 years. What it's saying is they're moving in 2 dimensionalities, but if you could read the alchemy, then you can see it. And then dimensionally, like I said, even though that body dies, what they've done might last for 300 years.